There were 23 trades, 52 free agent signings, and 75 total transactions this summer. Today, we're using one word to describe every NBA team's offseason. But first, drop that intro. Let's get it. Welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great. LeBron James. I feel like there's an ongoing saga with him. There's new reports all the time. I can't wait to jump into it.
Same here, brother. Today we're discussing every squad's offseason so far. But first, let's start with what Joel just said. LeBron James. This week, there's a ton of reports that came out. I'm just going to go one by one. LeBron made a call to Luka Doncic about his LA future, and after it, he kind of revealed the real reason why he was at Cleveland Summer League practice a couple weeks ago. Interestingly enough, there have been 4 teams reach out to Rich Paul and call him and check in to see about his availability. We have some answers on that as well. But this all started when the Lakers never offered him an extension after this season. This is the first time in his 23-year career he's going to enter the final year of a contract. After releasing that cryptic statement we kind of talked about a couple weeks ago, that Rich Paul released, LeBron really fanned those flames whenever he took a trip to Cleveland. I know he lives there, but there was just a whole lot of extra shit, Joel. He was posting a video of him with a welcome home hat on in Cleveland. Obviously, it got leaked that he had went to the Cavs Summer League practice, trained with a couple of the rookies, even took a picture with one of the rookies. But James' explanations for all of these actions are a little bit different. He had said, I live in Cleveland. I work out there every summer. He had kind of pushed it to the side, but a source close to LeBron James told ESPN nothing he does is a coincidence. And that's what I've always believed, and probably what you've always believed with LeBron James. But after that trip is when he had his agent, Rich Paul, call Luka Doncic. And it was basically to, quote, extend an olive branch, like a peace treaty, kind of say hey, as of right now, nothing's happening. You know how the business works. But if we do anything, if we request a trade, we will let you know first. That definitely raised my eyebrows as it raised ESPN's eyebrows as well. Unsurprisingly, with all this reporting and stuff, 4 teams have called about James, and we know those 4 teams now. And those 4 teams that are interested are the Golden State Warriors, your New York Knicks, the Dallas Mavericks, and again, it is the LA Clippers are interested in that as well. Joel, what is your reaction to that? And will LeBron James be a Laker by February of next year?
I don't think anything that LeBron James does is by accident. I do think that it's intentional. With that being said, this whole situation is kind of weird to me because LeBron, from what it seems like, is upset that the Lakers aren't prioritizing his tenure and they're focusing more on the future with Luka Doncic. And I'm surprised by that because I think that the future for Luka Doncic and building around him is now. It's not about later. This isn't a player that was freshly drafted like Hooper Flag and is 18 or 19 years old. This is a player that is about to enter his prime. This is the time that he's supposed to have one of the most competitive rosters so he can compete for a championship. The Lakers, without a doubt, would be worse off if LeBron James was not on the team. This is a top 10 player in the world, a co-star next to Luka. And I think this whole saga has been so weird about LeBron James committing or not committing to the team. I'm not sure who's doing it more on either side. I don't know if it's the Lakers that they don't want to commit to LeBron, or if it's LeBron that doesn't want to commit to the Lakers. But this whole situation feels a little bit weird to me. It feels a little bit unnecessary. And I think that LeBron James will be on the Lakers when the season starts.
Yeah, unnecessary is the best word to describe it because either side have had their chances to shut this down. Dave McMenamin walked over to LeBron James in Vegas at Summer League, asked him to clear the air. LeBron said he had nothing to talk about. The LA Lakers, after LeBron opted in, did not even release a statement about it. They released a statement about Jake LaRavia, DeAndre Ayton, but when LeBron James, arguably one of the greatest players of all time, opts in, they were nothing. They said absolutely nothing. And I want to clear something up as well. I had said the Clippers were one of the 4 teams. It was the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks, and the Golden State Warriors. So it's the Cavs, not the Clippers. Clear that up. But I agree with everything you just said because LeBron James, I think this will get the hottest around the trade deadline. I expect him to report to camp. LeBron and his representation expect that. The LA Lakers expect that after him opting in. But what's going to happen is when he has 3 months remaining on his deal, when all that money, $50 million, has a chance to fall off anybody's books, I think all 30 teams are going to be calling about the LA Lakers whenever February rolls around. And the Lakers, depending on their record, may be willing to listen.
Any deal involving LeBron is going to be tough because of the salaries that have to be matched. In regards to the Cavaliers, they're over the second apron. They cannot aggregate salaries to go get LeBron James. The Knicks, I think, is the most intriguing one because I think they have an expiring deal of their own with Mikal Bridges. They have Josh Hart's contract. They have OG Anunoby's contract. There's a couple contracts you can combine together to try to go get LeBron if the Knicks are willing to. I think that is the one that is the most appealing because they have the combination of wings to appeal to the Lakers because I think those are the type of players that fit best around Luka, especially defensive-minded wings. So I think those teams make the most sense, but I don't see LeBron going anywhere. I think he's staying with the Lakers.
And I think he wants to retire a Laker as well. I think all of these questionable posts he's made, all of these ways he's moved different is just a strategic thing to apply pressure on the Lakers. Well, now, like, if I'm LA, like the answer is simple. I'm choosing the 26-year-old superstar over the 41-year-old superstar. This is not a hard decision to make. And no matter how loud that the 41-year-old kicks and screams, I'm not going to listen and do what he wants me to do. I think the balance that Rob Pelinka and the Lakers need to figure out is not shoving everything into 2026, 2027, 2028. At the end of the day, Luka Doncic is in his prime right now. And you said this a couple weeks ago. They need to capitalize on that right now. So if it's not after this summer or after next summer, I don't want to see anything pushed after that. When Luka is 27 years old, I want to see them go all in and act like they have a superstar on their team, not just wait around for the buyout market and sign DeAndre Ayton or replace Dorian Finney-Smith with Jake LaRavia. That's not what I want to see. I understand why they're doing it and, trying to clear as much space for next summer. But if nothing happens next summer, I think Rob Pelinka could be fired.
I think the most important storyline with the Lakers revolves around Luka and whether or not he's going to sign an extension. If I was Luka, I wouldn't sign it. I'd wait until they surround me with a roster that is good enough to compete for a championship. And if the roster is not at that point by the time he is extension eligible, which is around the start of the season, I would not sign that contract. Luka Doncic has a chance to be a free agent in the 2026 offseason. There are a lot of suitors. All those suitors that you mentioned for LeBron is even more for Luka Doncic. And Luka Doncic, and for the first time in his career, would have the ability to handpick the team in the situation that he wants to go to. I think Luka has deserved that, and I would be shocked if he signs an extension before he's given that opportunity, especially with the way that things are going for the Lakers and the direction they're choosing to approach this entire LeBron situation with. I think this offseason has been underwhelming for them, and it hasn't convinced Luka to stay.
For sure. And I know that front office is on pins and needles waiting for that. Luka has three options on August 2nd. The Lakers have offered a 4-year, $229 million offer. That's on the table. That's the most they can offer right now. Luka also has an option to take a shorter 3-year, $150-something million extension. And the reason he would take the 3-year is because it would give him a year, 4 years from now to sign a massive 5-year $408 million extension. So if he took the shorter one, he could get the bigger one in the last year of it. Or he can do what you just said and wait it out and see what happens and see if his future belongs in LA. I think the most likely of those three scenarios is the 3-year deal and capitalize on that record-setting 5-year deal a few years from now. But yes, it is definitely a conversation, especially with how this roster has been built since Luka has become a Laker just 5 months ago.
It's not a good enough roster. That's the bottom line. It's not good enough to compete. And he has to be wary about where he decides to stay long term.
For sure. Let's get into one word to describe every NBA team's offseason. We're going to go in alphabetical order here, starting with the Atlanta Hawks. I just had one word for it, and it was turnaround. Atlanta flipped the narrative, and they did it fast. I think 1 year ago, this team would be described as stuck, or somebody would be wondering, especially me, what would happen with Trae Young. I tried to force that trade to Orlando trade so many times, but now they've completely flipped the cards for themselves. The rotation is balanced. They got Trae, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Risachet, Jalen Johnson, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Kennard, and Aneka Okongwu. That's a legit 8-man lineup. And you throw in the unprotected 2026 first round pick they got from the hapless New Orleans Pelicans. The Hawks suddenly look like they're on a different track.
The word for me is vision. I think the Hawks, starting since last year, have had a vision of how they want to build this team around Trae Young. They want multiple players with size that can defend, that can shoot the three, and that can also attack closeouts. And I think that Porzingis, Alexander Walker, Luke Kennard were three players that can do that. And now the Hawks have one of the deepest rosters in the NBA, with also Jalen Johnson coming back and being healthy in the lineup. They have a clear vision for what they want to do, and they have propelled themselves into one of the best teams on paper in the Eastern Conference.
For sure. Speaking of the East, let's stay there. Two teams here, the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. For the Celtics, I just had bummer. I mean, their starting center is Luka Garza. Tatum's coming off an Achilles. There's a lot of stuff to be sad about if you're a Celtics fan. You feel so far removed from that championship you won just 1 year ago. The Nets, it is washed. They had the most cap space in the league and used it on a pricier version of Cam Johnson. They drafted 5 guys in the first round. They did not use any of those picks in trades, and they did not come away with a clear foundational guy. It's just confusing all the way around for them.
The Celtics, I think it's a rebuild. I think they're going to be bad. I think it's simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
With the Nets, I would say, weird. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's their offseason. They drafted 5 rookies that all had crashing skill sets. They didn't mesh the best together. Really, none of their prospects were able to really score the ball and leverage their passing abilities. And in summer league, it hasn't looked all that promising. This is a team that it's also in a weird place. They're trying to be bad. Michael Porter Jr. is not leading the way with Nick Claxton, and Cam Thomas probably comes back still. This is just a weird team. It's a weird position that they're in, but it makes sense because they're trying to be bad.
For sure. Sticking with the East again, Charlotte Hornets. I put calculated. I love the Colin Sexton move, especially with LaMelo's health over the last couple years. They got that 2029 Phoenix first rounder, which I think is a high value asset. They re-upped Trey Mann on a super cheap deal. All of these moves were, not monumental, but they were smart ones to make.
Mine is culture. I think they're trying to change the culture there. I think they're trying to bring in, most importantly, good NBA players. I love what they did at the guard position, bringing in Colin Sexton, re-signing Trey Mann, having LaMelo Ball still there, drafting Con Canepo. They have a good group of guards, also with Spencer Dinwiddie, that can take the pressure off LaMelo and can create offense. So I think that was good. And then they completely rehauled their center rotation with trading Mark Williams. But I like what they did. I think Diabate looked good last year. And Kalkbrenner is a really good center who's massive, who's a good defensive player. So I like the direction the Hornets are going in. It just feels like their offseason never gets materialized in the regular season and wins. But I can see the vision with this team.
For sure. And fingers crossed for the health of everyone on that team. I do want to see a leap from Brandon Miller. I think the Charlotte Hornets every single offseason have the potential to be one of the most fun teams in the NBA, but like you said, it just never materializes. The Chicago Bulls, this is a hyphenated word. It's head scratching. Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro was a deal they made. There was no clear reason why they made that deal. They don't explain anything to their fans. Josh Giddey still hasn't been signed, even though Chicago literally holds all the leverage with that. That should not take long for them to get done. Nothing they do makes sense, and their offseason was head scratching for sure.
I think their offseason was head scratching with the Lonzo Ball trade.
Mhm.
But I just think of wings when I think of the Bulls. Mataz Buzelis, they drafted Noah Senge, who had that highlight where he got dunked on and it looked really bad. But he's been playing really well in summer league, and I think the pace of play that they played at in the summer league games is how they want to play in the regular season. They were playing that way before the season ended, and they were one of the most fun teams to watch on League Pass. I think that having those wings, they're kind of building like a great value version of what the Magic have and what the Celtics have. And a lot of their future relies on the development of those wings, of Buzelis, of Visenge, of Josh Giddey being the playmaker and facilitator in that group. So the Bulls are adding a lot of size to their team, and it seems like they have this direction of how they want to play, the type of players they're attracting, and they're capitalizing on it right now. But unless you get lucky in the draft and have one of the top picks and are able to bring a surefire prospect to town, it's just very hard to compete at the highest level if you don't have a blue chip prospect on your team.
For sure. And it would be just like the Chicago Bulls to have this long negotiation process with Josh Giddey. And everybody's assuming, like, holy shit, they finally learned from Patrick Williams. They're not going to give him $30 million a year. And then it gets announced in August that Josh Giddey's going to make $30 million a year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, for Bulls fans, they get what they want from that and not another overpay. But we will see what happens. The Cleveland Cavaliers, my one word for them, was different. They swapped out Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro for Lonzo Ball and Larry Nance. To me, that's a lateral move at best. Lonzo has played 35 games in the last 3 years combined. It's different, but I don't know if it's better.
It's a bet on Lonzo's health. I think the Cavaliers, the word that comes to my mind is pivot. They're pivoting from offensive oriented players like Ty Jerome to someone like Lonzo Ball who can do it all, who when he is healthy and at his best, he can contribute offensively, especially in transition and as a catch and shoot player. And then defensively, he's one of the best on ball guards on defense in the NBA. So I think this is a pivot to how they want to play. Larry Nance is like the perfect four, small ball five. So they're trying to add more versatility and players that can actually play multiple facets of the game. I thought Ty Jerome, really awesome season, but one-dimensional player. And Isaac Okoro, same thing, where his calling card is defense, but offensively, he's such a liability that you can't play him for too many minutes. So the Cavaliers, they're pivoting. They won 60-plus games this past season, and injuries derailed their season, but they're clearly trying to shift to more of a defensive identity, and they need it because they didn't have much defensive personnel this past season on the perimeter.
Do you want to guess top five in Eastern Conference odds next season?
Number one is the Cavs or the Knicks. So 1, 2 is the Cavs, Knicks. Number 3, I'd go with the Orlando Magic.
Yep.
Number 4, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
And number 5 is going to be, this is probably the toughest one.
Oh, it is.
Is it the Pacers?
It's the Philadelphia 76ers. So the
That makes sense.
The Cavs are plus 850. Knicks are right behind them at plus 900. Magic are plus 1200. Hawks plus 2500. 76ers at plus 3300. I like your Knicks in the East. It's simple. I think they got deeper. We'll get to them in a minute. But with what the Cavaliers did, I'm not going to bet on Lonzo Ball's health. I'm not betting on LaMelo Ball's health next year either. It's just once you have shown me something, it's the same way with Zion Williamson. Like, and Lonzo's case is worse than all of those guys I just named combined. Like 35 games in 3 years is very concerning. And the fact that like it wasn't even his knee is what knocked him out. Like last year, it was his wrist. Like it's a whole nother injury. Just something always happens with Lonzo Ball. As good as he is, I mean, it's exactly why I think I'm going to take the Knicks in the Eastern Conference. You're going to take the Cavs, I'm assuming?
The Cavs are more talented in my opinion. But the injury stuff is real.
Yeah.
And I think they banked a lot on Lonzo staying healthy, which he hasn't been able to do.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Let's go to the Western Conference. Dallas Mavericks. This is my favorite word out of them all. I said visionary. Part with Nico Harrison's press conference that he had. This, he tried to sell, was all a part of his vision. Obviously, it's the luckiest outcome in NBA history. The only thing I hated about their offseason was the D'Lo signing, but that was just a small stopgap guy. Everything else they did, I'm fine with.
The one word is lucky. I mean, they lucked into Cooper Flag.
For sure.
And because of that, Nico Harrison got bailed out. But had it not been for that, I think we're looking at him completely differently. I'm still looking at him completely differently. So lucky. They got really lucky, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy that Mavericks fans they got ripped away from their franchise star and got another one that fell into their lap. I think the fans deserve it. I think Nico Harrison doesn't.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the fire Nico chance will resume next regular season. The Denver Nuggets, my one word for them is escapism. They felt like they were stuck. MPJ's contract looked unmovable, but they ended up flipping him for Cam Johnson and used the savings to bring in Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, and Tim Hardaway Jr. That's 100% a win for the Nuggets.
I think the word is pressure. I think they applied pressure on this offseason to actually surround Jokic with good depth. And they did. MPJ's contract getting off of it and bringing in Cam Johnson, who you can argue is a better player,
Mhm.
and then using that leftover money to bring in good rotational players. I thought that was missing in the OKC series. And now that they have more players, more bodies that are fresh that can play in the playoffs, I think this is a Denver team that they're contenders. They're scary. They're one of the best teams in the West, and you cannot overlook them making a championship run.
Yeah, it's by far, I think, the best bet to knock off the Oklahoma City Thunder, especially with the series that we saw them have last year without all these new pieces. The ninth and 10th teams on this list are the Pistons and the Warriors. For Detroit, I just had lateral as the one word for their offseason. They signed Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. Neither moves really moved the needle for me. This team's future depends on internal growth, not the offseason move. So if Jaden Ivey can come back, take a leap, I'm all for it. Ron Holland, the way he's been playing in Summer League, I think that is what's going to propel this team to another level, not these lateral offseason moves. For the Golden State Warriors, the one word I had was standoff. There's still no resolution with the Jonathan Kuminga thing. If there was a sign and trade on the table, I think it would have already been done. So there's not that either. So it seems like Steve Kerr, as clear as he stated in his press conferences, that Kuminga is not a part of this Curry and Jimmy Butler led team. Now they may have to sign him and just cross their fingers to have a good trade in February. Not only would they have to sign him, but probably play him for the first half of the season. There's still no significant trades that happen. We keep waiting to hear about Al Horford. It still hasn't happened. So Warriors is standoff. The Pistons is lateral.
The Pistons is continuity. They're banking on their young players to take leaps. They're bringing in everybody back. They're making minor changes. With the Warriors, I think it's stuck. I think they didn't have any flexibility to make any moves. They're top heavy. After Butler, Curry, and Draymond, the team really drops off. And last season, they looked like a contender. They surged late in the season, but all those guys being a year older, having more mileage on their body, will that be able to be sustained throughout an entire regular season? I think that's the biggest question mark for them.
Absolutely. A team that they have had a long playoff rivalry with is the Houston Rockets. I had a hyphenated word for them as well. It's first class. They crushed this offseason, swapped Jalen Green for KD. They swapped Brooks out for, Dorian Finney-Smith. I think adding Clint Capella and having that, backup center depth behind Steven Adams, a guy who has struggled with injuries throughout the, last half a decade of his career. I think they still have Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Reed Shepard developing. Van Fleet took that much needed pay cut. Houston also secured Jayshawn Tate, Jeff Green, and Aaron Holiday on minimums. Jayshawn Tate was a guy I thought they would for sure lose, but they kept all three of those guys on minimums. All around first class offseason for the Houston Rockets.
I think it's been brilliant. I think when you swap out Jalen Green for Kevin Durant, that's an upgrade that is so massive that it's unfathomable it can even happen. And then Dylan Brooks and Dorian Finney-Smith, that is pretty even to me. I think Brooks is the better player, but I think Finney-Smith probably knows his role a little bit better, so
Thank you.
it's
Yeah.
easier to fit him along. But
Yep.
they're around the same level of player.
No,
So the Rockets, they upgraded in a massive way.
they did. And you literally just made the argument on why Dorian Finney-Smith is a better NBA player than Dylan Brooks. Talent level, yeah, Dylan Brooks has more talent, but he does not know his role. And Dylan Brooks is good enough to change your culture, which he did for both Memphis and Houston, but he's not good enough to get you, to play at a level that gets you to the conference finals or finals. I think Dorian Finney-Smith, because he knows who he is the reason that was a plus for them. We can have this DFS argument every single episode. I don't care. The Indiana Pacers. Oh, you have a rebuttal?
I was just gonna say, Dylan Brooks is the perfect player to describe him as like the dynasty starts after you.
Yes.
But that's not so true with the Grizzlies, is it?
Well, they're on this list. We'll talk about it. I think the Grizzlies are in a decent position to make another move. I did see our GM at a coffee shop earlier this week. Did not give him my true feelings. Definitely shied away, but we'll talk about the Grizzlies in a bit. The Indiana Pacers, hyphenated word for them as well. Flat-footed, letting Miles Turner walk after building around him, or building, around him, Tyrese, and the core they had was not a good thing to do. They did not pivot well enough to justify why they let Miles Turner walk. It felt flat-footed. It felt unprepared, and that's how I describe their offseason.
Retool with Halliburton being out for the season. That's all they can do. I think this season is about their young players taking a step, whether that's Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, their draft pick Cam Jones, who looked pretty solid in summer league.
Shout out Memphis.
Yeah, that's what they need. They need one of these guys to step up and showcase that when Hallie comes back, they are ready to contribute. I like the Jay Huff trade that they made. The Pacers, they're never not going to make good moves. They made some really good moves. But with Halliburton out for the year, what is that going to materialize into? It's just hard when you lose your best player.
And I understand that, paying Miles Turner what he got paid is a hard pill to swallow, but I feel like what made the Pacers so good this year was the continuity they have. I know Tyrese is going to be out next year, but if I'm a Pacers fan, if I'm a Pacers player, I'm just frustrated because our front office listened to us about saying, hey, we don't need anything. We got it all here. And they trusted us to go and make a run. And we were one game from winning the NBA Finals. But now, after Tyrese gets hurt, after Miles Turner, you had a chance to sign him. He walks. I think that is the source of the most frustration in Indiana. 13th team is the LA Clippers. I just put girthier. The front court is massive now. Brooke Lopez and John Collins next to Zubac. Zubac gives them real rim protection. Plus, moving on from Norm Powell's contract and getting a cheaper version of Bradley Beal was a solid move as well.
It's savvy. I think the Clippers, they never have the flexibility to make any splash moves, yet they continue to make them. They have come off of now two back-to-back 50-win seasons, and this roster looks like one of the best rosters on paper in the NBA. With
Yes.
Brooke Lopez and Bradley Beal adding those two guys, with adding in John Collins, they added size in the front court, which they needed. They added in another shot creator and bucket getter in Bradley Beal. And now this is like a starting lineup with Harden and Beal and Kawhi and Collins and Zubats. There's so much spacing around this unit. And I think that they have capable defenders on the roster like Kawhi, Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Zubats. I don't think that this is going to be a bad defensive team. They were second in defensive rating this past season. And with Jeff Van Gundy's scheme, they really improved defensively. So the Clippers look like a team that they're going to contend. It's all matchup dependent for them and just about their health. I think their age is a really big factor in why you cannot believe in the team. And also James Harden's disappearing acts in the playoffs. Also Kawhi Leonard, first time in the playoffs that he's played when healthy, where this didn't look like a dominant series. He was really good. He played at an all-star level, but he didn't play at that superstar level that we are usually accustomed to. So if they don't get that version of Kawhi and they get an inconsistent Harden, it's tough to see them make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I think they have an opportunity to be a 60-win regular season team, especially if Harden performs like he did last year in the regular season. But I'm right there with you as far as playoff success. The other team in LA is the Lakers. My one word for them was situationship. That's what LeBron and LA feel like right now. There's no communication on what boundaries are. Feelings are super involved in it. They might hook up with someone else at 1 a.m. and, the other partner gets a rise out of it and does something crazy over the weekend to get the other one's attention. It just feels like a never-ending hamster wheel with LeBron and the LA Lakers right now. So I think because of that, and yes, they got lucky with the DeAndre Ayton stuff, and, the Jake LaRavia thing was weird. I think situationship is the perfect word to describe the Lakers offseason.
Uncertainty. You don't know what LeBron's future is going to be. You don't know what Luka's future is going to be. And had the Blazers not bought out Ayton, which was a favor for the Lakers, they would have done nothing this offseason. So the Lakers really they have not had a good summer to say the least.
Let's talk about my Memphis Grizzlies. One word for them is active. They moved Desmond Bain, extended Jaren Jackson Jr., drafted Cedric Coward, signed Ty Jerome, and re-up Santi Aldama. I'm not sitting here saying I'm sold that that's going to change the future of this team because it's not. If they don't move off of Santi Aldama and attach an asset to possibly bring something back and Ja isn't healthy, this team's going absolutely nowhere. But at least they're trying to reshuffle the deck. It's a similar conversation to Cleveland, right? Like, we know that Cleveland might have not gotten better, but they had to do something. And hopefully, what Cleveland and Memphis did helps them out a little bit.
Memphis, the word that comes to my mind is desperate. I think they're desperate to make this Ja Morant tenure work. They traded Desmond Bain, and I think they did get better. I think bringing in Ty Jerome is a good signing. Bringing in Cedric Coward didn't play in summer league, but I think it's going to be a really good NBA pro. This is just a clear pivot to just a new direction of the team, but it all revolves around what Ja's going to do. And if Ja Morant is not the star that they are banking on, then all of this is going to be kind of for nothing. But they have surrounded him with a good enough roster to compete.
Absolutely. We're halfway through. What was your biggest takeaways from Summer League?
It was just the Timberwolves' young core and how quickly I think they can contribute. Terrence Shannon Jr. is by far and away the guy that I think is going to contribute the most. He's going to fill in Nickeil Alexander-Walker's role. Rob Dillingham's last Summer League game gave me some hopes for him that he'll play well. And then Joan Behringer, who is like their center Rudy Gobert replacement, true 6'11" player who's athletic, who he's so good defensively and moving around his feet. He can recover well. He can play against high pick and rolls. He can move his feet laterally well. So I think the Timberwolves young core is just one that's intriguing and fascinating because they're going to have to bank on those players playing huge impacts if they want to extend their contention window.
Yeah, I think Minnesota feels similar to what Denver was last year. We knew Denver was going to need something from Christian Brown, need something from Strawther, which they did not get, and came up to be their demise. But Minnesota is definitely going to need something for those guys. My one word for them was measured. I think the Randall contract was phenomenal. There's a reason it's only 3 years. It's so it can be really, really tradable. You look back to last summer, the Rockets signed Jalen Green to a 3 year extension. And no matter what their front office said at the time, it ended up being because they could trade him because he's on, he only had 2 years left on his deal. I think Julius Randle, there's an exit door to that. And if not, if it works out, then good for the Timberwolves. But it was definitely a measured offseason with the way they signed Naz Reid. It might have been of an overpay, but whenever you get Randle on that contract, it doesn't really matter.
Naz Reid got paid the same amount that Jabari Smith Jr. got paid. Smith Jr. has potential, but I think Reid is the better player now. These contracts are getting bigger than the NBA, but what matters is that cap percentage and how much these players actually take of the cap. Yep. And 25 million is becoming the new norm for like just really good role player, and that's it. So I think before it used to be like a max contract, but now it's very much like just role player money.
Yeah, and that's what in final time going back to the Grizzlies. That's what infuriated me about the last 3 years of the Grizzlies because they had Jaren Jackson Jr., an All-NBA caliber player, a defensive player of the year on a 4 year, $100 million contract, making $20 million a year and still could not capitalize on it. That is what infuriated me about the Grizzlies. But anyways, I agree with everything you said about the Timberwolves. Let's go out east. The Miami Heat. My one word for them was whatever. I mean, the Norman Powell thing was nice, but it doesn't change my outlook on them. Obviously, Vegas's outlook on them, just looking at the Eastern Conference odds, they're still a 6 to 10 seed in the East, and the Norman Powell thing doesn't change it.
I think the one word is fighting. They're fighting to stay relevant. They're battling. They're chipping and clawing. They're doing whatever they can to make at least a move that they can say, okay, we are a better team than last year. Yes. Because when you look at how, Davion Mitchell improved with them towards the end of the season, and then adding in Norman Powell, they only lost Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love, two players who really weren't playing in the rotation for them. And Powell, he was getting some all-star nods this past season. Like, their defense is definitely going to take a hit, but getting another player who can create offense for himself was a huge need for Miami. So they're just battling and they're just finding ways to try to keep getting better. Although it's not a splashy move, it is a move that did make them better. It did improve them, yes.
On the other end of things, Milwaukee Bucks. One word was desperate for them. They did everything they could to keep Giannis, and it might have worked, but desperate was the word for them.
This is the true desperate team. They are also fighting and clawing and doing the best they can to keep Giannis in Milwaukee. I think that they did the best they can. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so either. I think the reality is going to set in sooner rather than later, and I don't think that it's going to be very long until Giannis decides that he doesn't want to be there.
We shall see. I mean, that stretch is going to change everything, especially for the future of the Milwaukee Bucks. I think John Horst stretched it out, knowing that if it works, he will still be there and they will be winning games. If it doesn't, he doesn't have to feel the wrath of, paying Damian Lillard $100 million over the next 5 years. Stay or going back to the Western Conference, New Orleans Pelicans. My one word for them was dumbassery, giving up an unprotected 2026 first, and moving up just 10 spots to number 13, getting Derek Queen. This is nothing against Derek Queen. That's just a brutal, form of a trade, not putting any type of protection on that pick. The Hawks couldn't believe it from all reports. They had to call back and, double check that that was even real. New Orleans, it didn't take long for Joe Dumars to turn them into the biggest laughing stock as far as, front office work in the NBA.
Questionable is the word for them. They're another team that just doesn't look like they know where they want to go. Zion is clearly their best player, but he can't stay healthy. So they don't make their moves in the offseason trying to cater to Zion, if that makes sense. They just slap talent on their team and they just hope it works without taking into account any sort of fit. And I think that is a problem. They have like different variations of teams being built in one roster, and it just doesn't make sense.
And even the Jordan Poole thing, I understand you want to move off McCollum, but move off McCollum for expiring money in return. McCollum, he's in the last year of his deal, and the Pelicans would have been free of that next summer and had all of that cap space to do God knows what, but they would have been free from it or use that as a trade chip in February as an expiring contract that somebody tanking would want. Instead, you go out and get basically a younger version of CJ McCollum, not as good as his peak, but Jordan Poole, who has 2 years remaining on that massive $120 million contract he signed back in 2022. So, yeah, nothing they do makes sense, and prayers up to Pelicans fans. New York Knicks, though, one word for them is deeper. Adding Jordan Clarkson, adding Gershon Yabusele, it gives them more reliable bodies. It's not flashy, but it is needed. The New York Knicks are deeper, and that's exactly why I have them winning the Eastern Conference next year.
Excitement. I think you brought some good points with the depth, but I'm excited for Mike Brown, coach of the year, motion offense, bringing in a new identity, getting everybody involved. That's what I'm excited for because I remember watching the Kings in 2022, and they were one of the most fun teams to watch in the league because of how they played offensively. And I think if he brings some of that to New York, it's going to make us very fun to watch because last year the offense was very stagnant with just Jalen Brunson dominating the ball, a ton of isolation. I think Mike Brown has a chance to change the entire philosophy of this team, and I'm excited for it.
If they play Cleveland in a series right now, who do you think wins and how many games?
I would take the Knicks, and I would take the Knicks in 7.
I agree. Oklahoma City Thunder. One word I have for them is locksmith. They re-signed literally everyone. No outside moves, but no drama either. They're just locked in right now.
Yeah, I think the one word for OKC is just it's just genius. It's just smart. It's just
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever can be used to describe them in a positive way. I think OKC has just completed the best rebuild ever, and they're just continuing to add on to it. And they have good players waiting in the wings, like Thomas Sorber, their draft pick. AJ Mitchell has looked too good for summer league, and he didn't play last season all that much in spurts. He did play. Nikola Topic. I mean, as long as Sam Presti keeps drafting well, which he's shown the track record to do, it's hard to see OKC falling off anytime soon.
Yeah, and watching AJ Mitchell in summer league too, it was like this guy doesn't belong here. It just seems unfair at times. Two more Eastern Conference teams, Orlando Magic and the Philadelphia 76ers. For Orlando, I put risky, obviously with the Desmond Bane trade. 76ers, I put limbo. It's a similar conversation to what the Houston Rockets were last summer, except obviously I think the 76ers are in a far worse spot. The conflicting timelines is how it relates to Houston last summer. They have Maxi McCain and Edgecombe, and then at the same time, they're paying Paul George and Joel Embiid all this money. This is just two timelines that are getting pulled in opposite directions.
For the Sixers, I think the word is patience. They're banking on Paul George's health and Embiid's health. And after reading Embiid's article yesterday, it seems like he is taking a cautious approach to his career. He is not going to rush back on the court. He's done
Has
that
he
in the
ever rushed
past, and it
back
feels like he has. He has
outside of that
in the
playoffs?
playoffs.
Yeah, outside of that playoff, but like I just don't understand. I thought he was having a minor surgery on his. I'm just confused about why like this is happening all over again.
Yeah, so he had a surgery on his knee, and the Sixers said that he should be ready for training camp, but Embiid's not putting a timetable on it. And it seems like Embiid's not rushing back at all because he feels like in the past when he's rushed back, he's hurt himself more long term. So I think with the Sixers, it's patience. I think every Sixers fan is hoping that this is going to be the year Embiid is finally healthy and things finally come together for him. And Philadelphia has the roster to help supplement him. So I don't think it's totally out the question that they can make a run if everything goes the right way. It's just that things haven't gone the right way for Embiid and for the Sixers. So I think that's why you can argue they're in limbo because they don't know what's going to happen. They have made huge bets on Paul George and Joel Embiid staying healthy, and that seems like a long shot for an entirety of the season.
Yes, it does. And I think Embiid, the amount of years he has remaining, has to be really concerning for 76ers fans, too, because at this age, feels like Embiid's not going to get any healthier, even if he does come back slowly, which he did at the beginning of last season and did not work. I don't see him having some sort of super healthy season, but prayers up. Hopefully he does. Phoenix Suns, one word I had for them, regretful. In the end, the Suns turned Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, four unprotected first round picks, and a first round swap into Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, your guy Malawach, Rasheer Fleming, Kobe Bray, Daquan Plowden, and two second round picks.
It's a retool. And they're an interesting young core because how quickly they develop and how good they show to be is going to be huge for Devin Booker and whether or not he wants to stay there and thinks he can compete with them.
Did you watch your boy Malawach in Summer League?
Yeah, he had some flashes. He was a raw player.
Okay, I'm definitely about to look up his stats right now. Let's see.
They're not the prettiest in the world.
Oh, you're trying to save me some time?
Yeah, they're not bad. I don't think he played terrible.
Fair. Fair. Hopefully, he can have a good regular season. But yikes. All right, Trailblazers 2015 on here. I put ambitious. Reached in the draft. It felt like Janssen, he showed some flashes in Summer League, but we'll see if he can hold up defensively. They took on Drew Holiday's huge contract in return for giving up Anthony Simons. They're clearly trying to force a turnaround, and we'll see if it happens.
Identity. They're trying to lean into a defensive first approach and trading away one of the worst defensive guards in basketball in Anthony Simons and bringing in Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive players in the league still. I think is a clear shift to that identity. They want to play high-level defense, cling in to Monty Kamara, Drew Holiday. I mean, they have the right pieces to play high-level defense. So I think their identity is clearly shifting to a just ruggedness and just a physical, intense brand of basketball.
I think 2 years ago, it would have made a lot more sense to Drew Holiday move, but after watching him in that Knicks series, he's still a good defender. I understand why they did it and stuff, but it's not the same player. And hopefully they can bank on their young talent, having a bigger year, because I don't know how much Drew Holiday is going to contribute to that, future of Portland. Sacramento Kings, I put one word, it's Chicago. Feels like the Bulls of the West. Scott Perry is running things. Doug Christie's now coaching it. It's an aging core. You're talking about identity with the Trailblazers. At least the Trailblazers have that, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. There's no defensive identity in Sacramento. Fox is gone, and Sabonis seems like he's on his way out too.
Just feels like this is like I don't know. I don't know what the Kings are doing. I think this is also a team I could categorize as stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's next. They don't have a clear direction. It's just a weird team all around.
I'm going to rattle off the final four teams. You can tell me what stands out from there. Spurs, I put patient, maybe too patient. We have yet to see, but the Cornette deal, yes, was questionable. Harper, Castle, Fox, it's an odd mix. They're going to have to figure it out there, but they were patient with Victor Wembanyama. For the Raptors, I put shackled. This is their starting lineup salary. This is the Raptors starting lineup salary. Emmanuel Quickley next year is on the books for $32 million. RJ Barrett's on the books for $28 million. Brandon Ingram's making $38 million. Scotty Barnes is making $38 million. And Jakob Poeltl is now making $20 million. The Raptors are shackled to that money, and let's see if they can get out. Final two teams, Jazz, I put prayer filled. After trading Sexton, Collins, and Clarkson, they're just begging for one of those young guys to break through. Hopefully it's Ace Bailey. Wizards, word I had for the final team is ducking. Them dumping Jordan Poole's deal was 100% a plus. They avoided, that midterm commitment they had with them, and now they're staying flexible and rebuilding slowly.
I think the one that stood out to me the most was I think the Wizards, they're just like throwing darts at the board, trying to see if a young player sticks. They traded for Kent Whitmore this offseason. So they're just hoping he sticks around. I think the Raptors, yeah, they have a lot of salary tied into players that are not like the best, but I don't know. I kind of like the Raptors to like make some noise this year in the playoffs.
$76 million for Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes in 1 year is insane. Can we agree on that?
Can't sleep on Colin Murray Boyles, though.
Okay, making the playoffs as an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, sure, I guess that's a plus. But are they going to compete with Cleveland or the Knicks? No.
The number one thing that stood out to me that you said was about the Spurs. I think the Spurs, it's not about patience anymore. It's about stardom.
Here we go.
That's this season for them. This season for them is going to result in a playoff appearance. It's going to result in Victor Wembanyama being an MVP.
Okay.
And it's going to result in De'Aaron Fox being a pivotal part of this team, making the playoffs and being one of the 6 best teams in the West. I think the Spurs are ready to take that leap and cement themselves and tell the whole league, we're here. You can't sleep on us anymore.
Who starts out of Harper, Castle, and Fox?
It has to be Fox and Castle. And then Harper comes off the bench. I think that everybody has been framing this as a bad problem. This is a very good problem to have. And I think that there are 2 types of identities you can choose to go down in the NBA. You can choose the identity of wings and defenders, which ironically enough, I think the Spurs actually have as well. Or you can choose the identity of guard play. There has been seasons before where I have seen 3 guards play, one take that back seat coming off the bench, and they have been fine. OKC, when they got Chris Paul and Shea started, and then Dennis Schroeder came in the game as a backup, and at times they run that 3-headed dragon at guard. I think it is a great problem to have that you have 3 capable on-ball creators that can create advantages in the half court. I think that is great to have. And I don't think I would be rushing to move any of them or rushing to move Fox because he's the odd man out, right? Fox.
Yeah. I think it's a great problem to have, but I'm not going to sit here and act like all 3 of these guards are going to be the future of this franchise. The reason it's a great problem to have is because you gave up virtually nothing to get De'Aaron Fox. So if you get virtually nothing in return because everybody knows you want to move off of him, it's not that hard. I think that's the reason it's a great problem to have. I'm not going to sit here and act like, Harper, Castle, and Fox are going to be here for the next 5 years.
I just have a hard time believing that the Spurs look at an all-star level player and say, yeah, we don't want him to be on this team. I think Fox is really damn good, and I think he's getting underrated.
Do they extend him?
That's the toughest question because I don't know if he's worth the max extension per se. But I guess it depends on how the season pans out. Like if the Spurs are in the playoff race and Fox is clearly the second best player on that team. I don't see how you don't extend him.
Yes. Okay. I agree with that. It feels like they have been the spearhead among like teams waiting for Giannis, and it just may not happen. Who knows why Giannis literally breaking news on Twitch, but it feels like Giannis is at least starting the season with the Milwaukee Bucks, and we'll see what happens in February. But I think the reason they would extend him is maybe to match salary in a future trade. I couldn't imagine that they would want to pay him all this money and then have to worry about who's starting out of Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle for years to come. But yeah, I agree with everything else you said.
I mean, it's just all depends on who's better. I
For sure.
think that's who starts, who's better. And I think Fox is the best one of the three. And Dylan Harper, I can see being better than Fox. I don't think that Stephon Castle will be better than Fox.
Yes, yes, agreed. Joel, it was great to meet you in Vegas, by the way. I know I said this off air, but you had a house or Airbnb out in Vegas with the guys from Nerd Sesh. So just connecting with all you guys was an honor. Tell me about the tour in the Raiders Stadium, though.
It was nice. It was a big stadium. It sucks that they don't win football games because the
Yeah.
stadium's really nice and the fans are diehard.
Hmm.
But it was cool just going on the field and touching the turf. And, you know, I think those type of architectural structures are really crazy. The fact that so much money is invested. They had this memorial for Al Davis, like in the middle of the stadium, and it's like a gigantic structure, a ton of artwork and paintings. It's just really cool. I think it's every team, every NFL team, every NBA team, every stadium, they have that type of culture tied into the team. And
Hmm.
it's really cool to just learn about the history of it.
For sure. Whenever I saw your pictures on Instagram, you posted up inside of it. It had me thinking about WrestleMania next year. That'd be a
Yeah.
perfect place to go to WrestleMania. I know they just had it this year, but Vegas, just with how close everything is, being around that many wrestling fans would be pretty dope.
No, yeah, it's a gigantic stadium. It makes sense as to why WWE has the event there. They can just fit so many people. Like, there's a section in the stadium that is just general admission. So you don't
Hmm.
have to buy a seat. You
Yep.
just have to buy general admission tickets and you can just stand and watch whatever's happening. And it's a pretty big space with like a bar and stuff.
Oh, for sure. For sure. UNLV, I thought they did a great job of Summer League. I think like the small gym, it feels like Summer League is outgrowing it a little bit. I don't know if you had this experience whenever like you were up at the games and stuff, but if you did not get in there like for the first game, like there was a line throughout the day to get into the back of that small gym. But just to see what Summer League has become, I've only been going for 3 years now, but just watching it year over year has been amazing. The Cooper Flag and Bronny experience was dope as hell too. The electricity in the air for that first game, watching how high the prices and stuff were. It was super dope to see, and Cooper Flag looks like a star in the first two games that he played. I know he shot the ball rough, but everything else. What shocked me the most was how big he was in person. I knew he was a big forward, but not that big. I understand he's going to stand out on a college court, but the fact that he's standing out amongst NBA rookies and wannabe NBA players was pretty dope.
He has a rare combination of size and skill,
Mhm.
which yeah, I was surprised by his size too in person. He's like a true 6'10 forward who can handle the ball and dribble the
Mhm.
ball with speed and pace.
Yep.
And he has a lot of refinement to do still, but he's
Yep.
so skilled just as is.
Yeah, and I think putting the ball in his hands at least for 2 games can help him get comfortable with his role next year because D'Angelo Russell, if that doesn't work out, we'll see. But I think the ball is going to be in Cooper Flag's hands quite a bit. Joel, I really appreciate you taking time. I know you just landed yesterday, still getting off that West Coast time. I know how that is, and I really appreciate you sliding through today, bro.
Yep, anytime. Thank you for having me on.